On June 23, 2012, at 2:18 p.m., a car drove by on the rooftop parking lot of the Algo Center Mall in Elliot Lake City. The mall, which was the epicenter of the city, went through decades of neglect and bad maintenance. This was the climax of years leading up to this day. This was not the fault of any one person, but the culmination of errors made by many people throughout the years.
Algo Center Mall was constructed in 1979 by the Algo Realty Holdings Ltd. But before the actual construction of the building, there were already concerns brought up about the design. Despite the concerns and warnings given by the engineers, Algo decided to ignore the faults and move on with the project. This proved to be the root of all the problems that would eventually cause disaster. As the years passed, the need for fixing the waterproofing system was made very apparent due to the constant leaking. Since the day the mall opened, this problem kept being ignored and passed from one owner to the next. Due to the unique design of the roof, which had an untested waterproofing design, this caused the beams to be exposed to constant moisture, which eventually led to rusting metal, which weakened the structure. This is the main predicament that has never been effectively addressed, causing the eventual collapse of the roof.
As the years progressed, so did the owners, who kept up the temporary dangerous act of covering up the problem. There are multiple ethical issues that we can identify throughout the entire process. But up until this point, the neglect of the owners from the construction to the maintenance has been inadequate. They prioritize cost savings over the safety of the public. Another major ethical concern was the deception committed by each of the first two owners of the mall, where each of them sold the property without emphasizing or highlighting the seriousness of the faulty waterproofing system. Mr. Nazarian, who was owner of the mall at the time it collapsed, had an engineer by the name of Robert Wood inspect the entirety of the building. Let's hop into the shoes of Robert Wood, whose reckless actions have led to some very dangerous results.
Robert Wood has been an engineer since 1974, and given his experience in being an engineer, one would not expect Robert to become reckless in his line of work. Unfortunately, the way Robert inspected the mall shows that he did not act professionally. Firstly, he did not do what was expected of him, which was to assess the conditions of the waterproofing system. He merely inspected areas that were specifically pointed out to him, and when he stumbled upon a rusty beam that would later collapse and cause this disaster in 2012, he did not identify it as a major problem. Wood did not think to look at previous inspections to have an idea of what could possibly be wrong. Furthermore, he dismissed any concerns by the employee that stated that the roof was vibrating, and it was unethical for Robert to brush aside these disturbing concerns that the employee had. He should have taken the concerns far more seriously, as people's lives were potentially at risk. Finally, it is alarming that he performed an inspection of a large property while his license was suspended. The far more ethical thing to do would be recommending this job to someone else. He violated the common ethical code of engineers, which prioritized the safety of the public. His ethical responsibilities should be first and foremost to perform his job well and avoid recklessness, meaning that his inspection should have been by first inspect the entire mall properly and not just some sections of it. And he should have been far more precise and conclusive in his inspections by identifying the problem, and afterwards he should have informed his clients onto these various problems, and he should have told them an effective solution for these problems.
Let's analyze alternative options using multiple approaches. Using the approach of utilitarianism, which is the belief that the best actions are those that produce the most good for the most people, Robert should have proposed a course of action to further address the problems he discovered in his inspection, and to make sure that the owner follows up and applies a solution, in order to maintain the safety of the public. By following the approach of deontology, which is the ethical theory that morality is whether the actions are done under a set of rules, Robert should have followed standardized protocols that would have allowed him to produce a more comprehensive and useful inspection. In conclusion, Based on our analysis of the approaches and of Robert's ethical responsibilities, we find that the deontological approach suits Robert's situation, as he lacked in the area of doing what he was tasked to do, which was to effectively inspect the entirety of the building, and to correctly identify the possible risk. Failing to do so was a violation of the rules he was under.
The unfortunate events that occurred in the city of Elliot Lake was not the actions of any one person. Many hands were involved that led up to the disaster that killed Lucy Aylwin and Dolores Perizzolo, and also injured 19 others. This day was an example of why engineers have a great responsibility when it comes to their jobs and how it can affect the lives of the people that they are serving.